So for example, a dress like this, let's say you have the fabric and you deliver it to the production house. How long would it take to finish, to get to a final sample that you approve?
I think it...
Tell us a little bit about the brand itself.
My name is Trang and my brand name is 𝗀𝗶𝗹𝗶, and you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at 𝗀𝗶𝗹𝗀 Studios. When I started this brand, I wanted to put more spotlight on Vietnamese materials and silks. And I think we don't have enough recognition in terms of the globe, like in the world, about Vietnamese silk, because everyone knows about Chinese silk, Indian silk, but Vietnamese silk is something very new that people haven't really heard of. But we actually have a lot of, we have a long history of mulberry silks, dating back from all the way into the ancient times.
Wow.
And it's a symbol of status. And I think personally, I think it's the colors that we use in Vietnam are very unique and very sort of like compared to Chinese silk, it's a different take.
Do you find it easy sourcing silk fabrics in Vietnam, and what options do you have and from which locations?
It's quite, actually it's not very easy. I think you need to have a good network and you need to know people by people, because we don't really have like a marketplace where everyone put their stuff on. It's all very like, you know, by get to know basis. So I needed to have like 1 or 2 years to really like, you know, buy from different local sellers and then start to ask them like where you source these fabrics from. And I like established this connection with a few sellers, like materials wise.
How do you decide on your designs?
I had a lot of like ideas for art concepts and how to create like avant-garde pieces. But as I, you know, start building my brand and start like actually get to know my own clients who are usually quite, you know, like artistic, they want to dress something, they want to be functional, they look different, they want to stand out. And I get to know them by, you know, like in person, and then I start to understand their needs and their requests, and that feeds into my design later on. Yeah.
Give us an idea on the process from when you've got the collection concept to making the first like samples, then doing the photo shoot, and then launching the marketing campaign.
I usually start with an idea, so a concept, and then I start sketching. After the sketches, I would start sourcing fabrics and materials, and that actually it's a big factor that decides the final collection, what it looks like, because the fabric I find are very limited, so I have to rethink my design according to the fabric, because back in London, for example, everything was readily available, but here in Vietnam, it's not the same at all. So we need to, I need to like change it a lot. And then we get first toiles, and then the toiles would be reworked into samples, and then I would get them from the factories. After the samples, we would go into production, and during production, we would start marketing campaign. So we would start shooting with the first samples, and we would come up with the press release stories.
If somebody comes to Vietnam and they're doing small quantity, but they don't speak Vietnamese, what kind of challenges will they face?
A lot of the local production houses don't speak English, and I have to, and the way they speak and the way they work are very distinct. So we have to understand how people, firstly, how Vietnamese culture works in terms of like, you know, interactions and communication. And then you need to have maybe like a local to start sourcing for you. And you need to have clear ideas of what you want. And sometimes you have to understand that everyone doesn't have everything. So you need to source it from different houses. Yeah.
So you provide the fabric, you provide a sample, and then they'll make a counter sample.
Yeah.
And then if they do it perfectly the first time, you're done. If not, you give them some feedback and do a second sample.
Yeah.
So for example, a dress like this, from, let's say you have the fabric and you deliver it to the production house. How long would it take to finish, to get to a final sample?
A dress like this might take a few days for them to make if everything is already prepared. And I need to feedback on that, maybe like in 1 day, and then they would like maybe start production. But after the first sample, usually we just go into production. So just 1 week, I think.
Wow.
I just want to maybe present like a sample of Vietnamese silks. That I think is very unique. I think the dye is quite, it hasn't really been seen on silks, I think, abroad. And the patterns is very like traditional. Actually, they don't really make this pattern anymore.
But is that done by machine or by hand?
By hand. Everything
Really?
is hand woven. Yeah. And it's silk and cotton.
Wow.
Or flax, I think. But
Ah.
because it's not as, like it kind of frays sometimes. That's why people are choosing viscose nowadays. And this is not like one of the last ones that I can find. I
Wow.
don't think they do it anymore.